Hi, and welcome to the Australian National Cosntruction Review. I'm Tamron Hurley, and each show we'll be taking a look at some of the most exciting and innovative companies, contractors, and developments in the Australian construction industry. Now, today we'll be focusing in on Fytogreen, one of Australia's leading specialists in green walls, roofs, and facades. On today's show, we'll be talking to Managing Director Geoff and Maintenance Manager Scott Sherwood. Hi, gentlemen, and thanks for joining me on the show.
Hi there, how are you?
Thank you very much.
We'll kick off with you, Geoff. As I mentioned, you guys are the Australian leaders in sustainable green walls, roofs, and facades. For those of us who don't quite know what that means, can you tell us a little bit about what you create?
We're a specialist in designing greenery that works within the concrete structures. We don't do any work in soil or in the ground as per normal landscaping. So we specialise in vertical gardens, either indoors or outdoors. We develop plant designs and solutions for different light exposures, wind exposures, and different kinds of public pressure. We develop green facades, which offer a cheaper solution where the areas might be much more significant, and the budget is limited. Typically on car park faces, so that you get some natural ventilation, and there's the environmental benefits with sort of reduction in carbon monoxide as a result of the plants being in close proximity.
Sure.
Another thing that we really specialise in is our green roofs. We've just passed the magic 500,000 square metres of green roofs under the Fytogreen system, which is significant. And we have green roofs in every part of every state of Australia except the Northern Territory. So we have one left to conquer. That's sort of what we specialise in. It's normally about providing solutions to the architect's vision in conjunction with a landscape architect for documentation to provide those sort of solutions to enable it to be a long-term sustainable outcome.
Fantastic. Well, it is such a unique product, and it's clearly growing if you've conquered every state except for the Northern Territory. Can you tell us a little bit about how these installations came about?
For us, you always start from humble beginnings. I mean, when we first started, we weren't doing anything like this, and just an involvement that occurs over time where you can see that this more and more offices, apartments, were going in, and so we needed to come up with a method that would make it easily replicatable in all sorts of different environments, and ultimately long-term sustainability is the key. We have a very in-depth research and development side of what we do. So our nursery down here on the Mornington Peninsula in Victoria, we pre-grow most of our green facade plants, most of our green wall plants. Wow. And we test those within the confines of the nursery space that we have.
Fantastic. Well, you do talk about greening the built environment, and from those images we can see what a great job you've done so far. How do you feel that greening a space adds to the day-to-day atmosphere of the building?
If you talk about the external greening, it's generally about reduction in urban heat island effects. So that's the bouncing of heat and light off concrete and glass surfaces that then obviously concrete will build up heat over time. By having foliage, you get that natural transpiration and cooling of the surface. Typically even behind a green wall, the temperature will be approximately 8 degrees lower. Wow. Just through the shading effect, and that obviously adds benefit to reduction in core temperature increase. Wind amelioration, so foliage coming off a shear surface like concrete or glass will always slow down the wind speed, and as the increase in high-rise buildings occur in our cities, that is one of the key things that people notice. We end up with wind tunnels, and it's quite a different thing. The challenges are always immense when we look at each opportunity and see them as an opportunity, and really try and figure out how we can do it so that we know that in the long term it will still be there. It's not a one-hit wonder, and I think that's something that Fytogreen prides itself on. We can go to virtually any of our installations in this country and stand there and talk about it, because it's not something we're not proud of.
Absolutely. Well, they really are spectacular. And one of the major buildings that you did was the Medibank Building in Docklands in Melbourne. Now, this set a new benchmark for green building. It's covered in roof gardens and facades and vertical gardens. With a client that approaches you with such a large project, what is the process that you kind of follow?
Well, that was a very interesting project because, initially we weren't involved in the pre-design, but Hassel's, the landscape architects and architects for the project, certainly had created a very green vision of what they wanted to achieve. The builder was Multiplex, or Brookfield Multiplex as it was in that period, and they had some concerns about how they were going to do this, so they asked us to come in and present some solutions and a cost option. So if we just talk about the green facades, it's the first time anywhere in the country that facades have been pre-grown and dropped into the ribbon band of a building up to 16 levels. So there's 520 pre-grown green facades there. So, nothing like a big challenge for the first time round. The roof gardens, there's 640 odd square metres of roof gardens in that space, typically about 600 millimetres deep, with trees and high wind exposures either to the south or the east or the north. Just getting material up to these. I mean, a lot of it was night work, moving material when it was in night hours, so that you weren't dealing with restraints with goods lifts, or in some cases we set quite a significant record moving material via sort of blower truck up to what we call level 6, but in true terms it was level 9, and then horizontally 100 metres. So it was a significant achievement. The green walls were built over a period of time. Once again, a fair degree of that at night work because of the timetable the builder had to work to, but they are two significant green walls right in the public space, which makes them very unique. And the everyday person can be part of it. They can stand beneath it and look up and see the upper foliage extending 1.5, 1.7 metres out from the wall, which makes it feel like it's sitting on top of you.
All right, so Scott, maintaining a project or a green wall of that scale seems uncomprehendable. We can barely maintain a veggie patch at our house. Can you talk us a little bit through the planning that goes into that?
Yeah, we always like to think that we can put a garden in there, like as sort of Geoff went through. So when we sort of begin any project, we need to ask, I guess our designer always says it's 100 questions. We need to think about, is the garden inside? Is it outside? What wind factors are there? What light factors are there? So when we take all of these into account, that allows us to make a garden that, in essence, is easy for us to look after.
Absolutely. Now, do you have a huge team that helps you with that? It can't just be you scaling all those walls.
No, it's in here in Melbourne, we've got 3 other workers with us. We're actually looking to bring another person on, and then we've got a couple of guys up in Sydney, 3 people up in Queensland, and then we have another person in sort of South Australia. One of the great things about sort of vertical gardens is that we're able to hit a lot of projects. Just here in Melbourne, I think we've got 120 projects, and with the 3 of us, or 4 of us, I should say, we can get around all the projects, which is, I guess, the best thing about maintenance. You don't constantly need to be there every week. We sort of look to be there monthly, and when we do our bigger visits, we sort of space those out to quarterly visits.
Fantastic. Well, we can see some of those projects in the background. They are absolutely amazing. Is there a project that you have worked on that you think is so completely unique and that you've absolutely loved?
I guess it's hard to narrow it down to one, because to me they're all sort of special. Definitely Medibank is one of the big ones, being that it has, green walls, green facades and roof gardens. So it's the whole sort of 3 factors of what we do. Tower 4 is another major one. That's the tallest indoor vertical garden in Australia, and that's about 53 metres tall and 480 square metres of vertical garden. So for us, that was the largest, single wall, and just how to look after that. It's been like a learning curve for us. We're really excited about Loop, which we're currently installing, and that's the first vertical garden that's co-sponsored with the Melbourne Green Forestry Fund.
Fantastic.
So we're really excited about that project, and that's a lot of new species in it as well. So that's going to be really exciting for everyone to sort of check out.
Now, from your perspective, what do you think the benefits to the broader community of having these green walls and green spaces are?
We always really like to talk about sort of biophilia, and so that's people sort of have a natural sort of intrinsic connection to sort of nature. It makes them feel sort of calm, and they feel great around it. And we find as urban developers, the living space and sort of working space is sort of restricting with high density, and we understand that. So we need sort of green infrastructure. So how can we put that in on a smaller footprint?
Geoff, the company Fytogreen has gone from strength to strength. What would you say is the secret to your continued success?
We have a great team. It's very diverse. From predominantly university educated, which helps us to sort of relate to this complex and new environment that we find ourselves working in. All the way through from technical design and irrigation and deliverability through to our botany with Eric van Zulikom, our designer, who is without peer, our construction team and construction manager the same, and obviously with our maintenance manager Scott, the care that's taken to ensure that the Fytogreen brand is enhanced is important to me.
There is one project that I know you guys worked on, and we'll talk to Scott a little bit about it. It's the University of South Australia's Pridham Hall. Now, this project is quite complex, and it has slanted roofs and lots of angles. Can you tell us a little bit about the maintenance of that?
That's an interesting one. When we sort of talk about roof gardens, we sort of work with harnesses and sort of rope extensions. That's generally for us to sort of, as fall protection. With Pridham Hall, we basically need that because of the angle. I believe one of the roof gardens has a 48-degree sort of pitch.
Sorry, 42.
42.
Still
quite sort of big. So we just really need that harness because, if we went out there walking normally, we would just fall straight off it. So that's been sort of quite a sort of technical one. It's also really hot there in Adelaide, so that's really come down to the design of the plants within there. So that's been a big thing there. It's 45. I think it's up to about 45 degrees in the middle of summer.
Well, you have done an absolutely beautiful job on so many projects around Australia. Geoff, if anyone wants to get in contact with you about greening their built environment, how can they do that?
Well, they can contact Fytogreen. I think the website's the best one to go and have a look at. You can see our projects. You can see who you might want to talk to by region. So that's www.fytogreen.com.au.
Well, thank you both so much for joining me on the show today. All the best with your up-and-coming projects, and we look forward to hearing what you're up to in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you all for joining us for the Australian National Construction Review. I'm Tamron Hurley, and if you would like any information on any of the companies, the projects, or the contractors featured on the show, you can go to our website, which is www.ancr.com.au. Once again, I'm Tamron Hurley. We'll see you next time.